like to thank everyone for coming and joining us this afternoon. Today is July 9th, 2024. This is the Laughlin Town Advisory Board meeting. For our agenda today, items on the agenda may be taken out of order. The board may combine two or more agenda items for consideration. The board may remove an item from the agenda or delay discussion relating to an item at any time. No action may be taken on any matter not listed on the posted agenda. All planning and zoning matters heard at this meeting are forwarded to the Board of County Commissioners, Zoning Commission, the BCC, or Clark County Planning Commission, PC, for final action. Please turn off or mute all cell phones and other electronic devices. Please take all private conversations outside the room. With the 48-hour advance request, a sign language interpreter or other reasonable efforts to assist and accommodate persons with physical disabilities may be made available by calling 702-455-3530, TDD at 702-385-7486, or Relay Nevada toll-free at 800-326-6868. Supporting material provided to the board members for the meeting may be requested from Tammy Harris at 702-298-0828. Supporting material is also available at the Clark County Department of Administrative Services. Supporting material will be available on the county's website at clarkcountynv.gov/LaughlinTAB. Okay, today we have our board members, myself, Kathleen Haas, Pamela Walker.
Present.
Fred Doughton.
Here.
Kathy Oates.
Here.
Herm Walker, no relation to Pam. Secretary, today is Tammy Harris at 702-298-0828, or you can email at tammy.harris@clarkcountynv.gov. Mark Moskowitz is our county liaison at 702-298-0828 or 702-455-6173. Or you can email him at mark.moskowitz, spelled MOSKOWITZ, at clarkcountynv.gov. Starting our agenda, item 1, we did roll call. Please stand, join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pam?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, moving on. Public comment. This is a period devoted to comments by the general public about items on the agenda. No discussion, action, or vote may be taken on this agenda item. You will be afforded the opportunity to speak on individual public hearing items at the time they are presented. If you wish to speak to the board about items within its jurisdiction but not appearing on this agenda, you must wait until the comments by the general public, period listed at the end of this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please step up to the speaker's podium. If applicable, clearly state your name and address, and please spell your last name for the record. If any member of the board wishes to extend the length of your presentation, this will be done by the chairperson or a majority vote. I would like to go and combine 2, 3, and 4 together with the approval of the minutes for June 11th and the agenda for July 9th.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, informational items. We will receive a report and updates from our South County Liaison, Mark Moskowitz, on Coffee with a Cop, Bennett Elementary School ribbon cutting, including the Laughlin Back to School Health and Wellness Fair on August 9th, hosted by Commissioner Naft, and other updates for Clark County.
Thank you, Chair. First, I just want to wish everyone had a wonderful July 4th, and thank you to Metro and Fire and the Chamber and LTC for all they do. Rockets Over the River is always such a wonderful event in our community, and it was well done, as it always is. So thank you for all those community partners that participated in that. I've got a slideshow if we can bring that up. The first thing is the other slideshow. We did Coffee with a Cop. I think it should be coming up, hopefully. Well, we did Coffee with a Cop at Vista Creek Apartments. Can we give them the, I'll give you the signature. Sorry. We did Coffee with a Cop at the Vista Creek Apartments. Sorry about that. A little technical difficulties. Vista Creek Apartments, thank you to Renee and Lieutenant Rogers and Sergeant Cox as well for always inviting our office there. It's really good to be there and be able to talk with the community. A lot of times Metro and our office can help with a lot of questions or problems that are coming up. So that was a good event, and they do them monthly. The second thing is we have these flyers back there. Actually, I'm going to jump to this. So on Friday, August 9th at 9 a.m., I've been working with Principal Don Estes with the Laughlin Junior High School. We'll be having the Bennett Elementary School ribbon cutting. That's going to happen at 9 a.m. We're very excited. The new address for the site is 1450 Spirit Lane, but as everyone kind of knows the community, it was kind of put in the middle of the high school. They've done a really great job with the construction. I've been able to walk the site. It's very nice. It's going to be one of the best elementary schools in the county's system. So, and in partnership with that, following that ribbon cutting, we're going to be doing a back to school health and wellness fair. Commissioner Naft is hosting that. It's going to be at the school, so people can go to the ribbon cutting, and this is for children, adults, everybody in the community. It'll have booster seats, child passenger safety, CPR demonstration, blood pressure screenings, dental screenings, Clark County resources, and so much more. I want to talk more about the dental screening. This is really awesome. Commissioner Naft worked with Healthy Together, which is a county-sponsored program. And what they do is they bring a gigantic mobile unit down, and they'll have it right there at the elementary school. And what they're going to do is anybody that needs dental care, they can go in there, and the program covers the cost of medical necessary dental care for uninsured and underinsured patients. So be sure to go there and check it out. It's equipped with state-of-the-art dental equipment, and the dental team is able to provide the same level of care as a dental office. So everyone's going to be blown away. It's really a really nice mobile unit. And so that'll be on August 9th with this health fair. The community members can stop by from 10 to 11:30, which is during the health fair, for a dental screening to determine the treatment needs. And then what they're going to do is say someone needs to have a tooth removed or needs to have more service than just a screening, they'll start doing appointments that same day from 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. And what they'll do, and they have about up to 10 appointments, but if there's more appointments, they'll actually be coming back to the community later in September. So I encourage everyone to use it. Go in there, get a screening. A lot of people will be able to get dental work done that day, which is incredible. It can be all done in one day. So just keep that in mind. Get there early if you want. Well, you don't have to get there early, but just get there and go through the screening, and then they'll schedule appointments. And like I said, if you don't get one on the 9th, those should be here in late September. So, and then there's also options too, where they can kind of coordinate with offices maybe in Las Vegas if you want to go up that way to get treatment and services as well. So it's a really neat part of this whole health fair. We'll have so many great things. So we really look forward. We'll be putting up flyers and all that. So the next thing I want to talk about is, and I also want to say that Metro will be there, Clark County Fire will be there with a lot of good information as well. So we look forward to that. I know it's a very warm day today, probably a record day, but I just want to remind everyone, we've got a list in the back of our cooling stations. We have in Laughlin the American Legion and also the Colorado Riverbank. So the American Legion is at 1510 Bruce Woodbury Drive, and the Riverbank is at 240 Laughlin Civic Drive. I know for this heat wave, they're all open until the 10th. And also, I got an email this morning that the library district also is an opportunity. So please keep an eye on your neighbors and your relatives and everybody in the community during these times, and let them know if there's any issues, to please utilize our cooling stations. And then the last thing is we have our newsletters in the back. There's a lot of good information. There's some information about the ribbon cutting at the bridge that we did. So that was a good, a very good information. So like always, please contact our office if you'd like to be on the mailing list, and we're more than happy to add you to it. And then there's one other thing we have with the National Park Service and Get Outdoors Nevada. In this building on July 24th, and we've got flyers in the back, there'll be a meeting with the superintendent and leadership of Lake Mead National Recreation Area to kind of give some ideas of what the community thinks can benefit the area in addition to boating and other uses that are currently there. So that'll be happening in this building July 24th from 3 to 5. So if you could attend that.
They're going to be doing an online survey.
Oh, an online survey as well. So look forward to that. This is all perfect. And this is all through National Park Service. So, yep. And with that, those are all my updates. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 2, receive an awards presentation from the Laughlin Rotary to honor a first responder for their dedication and contributions to the Laughlin community.
Jackie Wallen, Laughlin Rotary Club.
Renee Yepez, Laughlin Rotary Club.
We have an issue where Officer Jeter was not able to make it today. So we are moving his actual presentation to the Searchlight Town Advisory Board next month on the 14th at 6 o'clock. But we wanted to make sure everyone knew about Mr. Jeter. He is a police officer too. He's receiving the first responder of the quarter for the second quarter 2024. Officer Chris Jeter has always been resolute in following his dreams. The 6'8" former running rebel who was part of the UNLV winning national championship during the 1989-1990 season went on to graduate with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. Part of those dreams included that he knew he wanted to be a police officer when growing up. Being the eldest of 6 children, he often felt the need to act as a protector to his younger siblings. It just became natural and the bigger idea. Character and integrity are traits that an individual has and are not learned. Officer Jeter exemplifies those traits both as an officer and as a human. Just one example of many. Officer Jeter responded to check the welfare of an elderly female during the summer months last year. During his interaction with the female, he took the time to listen to her and speak with her. It was during this time with her that he learned her electricity had been turned off. This was during the middle of the day in Laughlin when the temperature was well over 120 degrees. Due to her age, along with her other concerning health issues, Officer Jeter knew this was unacceptable and attempted to reach out to the utility company and other resources for help. Officer Jeter could not get any immediate assistance, and the elderly female would not leave her residence. Faced with this, Officer Jeter knew the outcome would be horrific if he did not do something. Officer Jeter then took it upon himself to pay the elderly lady's power bill, which restored her power within 30 minutes. Officer Jeter followed up by returning and checking in on the elderly female throughout his work week. Officer Jeter joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department in July of 2000. During his time with the department, he has held assignments at Bolden Area Command, Traffic Bureau, and his current assignment in the Residence Section. Since coming to the Laughlin Searchlight Residence Section in 2018, Officer Jeter has taken his role of being a protector of the community to heart. He quickly made Searchlight his community and became part of that community. Officer Jeter sold his house in Las Vegas and bought a home in Searchlight, relocating his family there. Since that time, Officer Jeter has volunteered, helped, worked, donated, cooked, fed, and just about anything else you could possibly do on his own time away from work to better the community. Officer Jeter goes monthly to Searchlight Town Advisory Board meetings to update the town on monthly calls for service, traffic citations, and any crime trends going on. He regularly will buy food to cook for the Searchlight Senior Center, and he feeds the seniors. Officer Jeter is a very ostentatious and fervent man to his work, his wife, his family, and his community. Officer Jeter has given so much to us and to his community that we are deeply honored to recognize him on August 14th, just as a token of our appreciation with the award that we will be giving to him on that day. So he will be presented his award there, but we wanted you to know about Officer Jeter if you didn't already know. Thank you for giving us this time.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to receive a report from Lieutenant Rogers with Metro Police. Metro.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Donnie Cox from Laughlin Substation. So to go over some of the stats for June of 2024, for calls for service, we had 319 calls for service, which is down from May by 4 calls. Traffic citations, we had written 104 fewer citations in the month of June than in May. DUIs, we had 3 in May, 0 in June. Domestic violent arrests were down from 6 to 4, and overall bookings were down from 22 to 19. Let's see. As far as specific crime trends that we've noticed, there's been a few upticks in fraud and forgery cases. Currently, we have 2 cases that are ongoing where we have suspects that are in custody. And as I transition into talking about some of the community events that we have coming up, I would like to propose that maybe we could have some kind of a shred company come out to assist the residents in shredding their private documents to help avoid some of these fraud-related situations that we have. So just kind of a way to address some of the crime trends that we see in one of the upcoming events. Maybe we can put something together with that.
Yeah, we can definitely work together. I know we've got some resources that come out and do those shred events and other type of things like that. So yeah, definitely. I think it's a great idea.
Perfect. That was Renee's idea.
Always a good idea.
All right, so some of the upcoming events we have, they already talked about some of those. So with the shred truck, we have the snow cone event coming up at the community church from 4 to 6 tomorrow afternoon. That is going to take place instead of the Coffee with a Cop event. You know, no one wants their children hopped up on coffee, so we're going to do the snow cones instead. Probably a better choice. And then they've already talked about the back to school, the meet and greet, and the ribbon cutting. Additionally, we're making plans for National Night Out in advance, so we've already begun the preparations for our National Night Out event. We have some big plans I don't want to reveal too soon, just in case I can't deliver, but we have some pretty good ideas and some fun things that will be going on for National Night Out. Additionally, with the officers here in Laughlin, we've taken it upon ourselves. We began tours of some of the local critical infrastructure facilities, specifically over near Big Bend and the water reclamation plant, just in case of a response is needed in those areas. So in the downtime and the training days of the officers, we've toured those facilities and made some suggestions for hardening those facilities against any kind of potential acts. That is all that we have for the update. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we'll receive a report from Clark County Fire Department. I didn't see a report for them.
I didn't see one.
Good afternoon. My name's John Boyle. I'm a battalion chief with the Clark County Fire Department. Happy to be here today. Just to report some of our June response numbers. Station 76 responded to 139 calls in the month of June. Station 85 responded to a total of 93 calls, bringing the two stations together to 232 responses. Year to date for Laughlin, both stations have responded to 1,131 calls. We did have a busy 4th of July, both here and in Las Vegas, and hope everybody was safe. And that's really all I have to report. Do you have any questions?
Just information on the personal watercraft and jet ski and stuff that we have.
Everything's
How
in
did
service.
those go out?
Yeah, everything's in service. Our watercraft 76 is in service, the boat, and the two jet skis are also in service at Station 85.
And did you see a difference with them out on the water this 4th of July weekend?
They've proved to be very valuable apparatus, especially the jet skis. It seems like we're getting a lot of use out of the jet skis at Station 85.
Okay.
So yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll receive a report from Jason Bailey from Big Bend Water District.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, excuse me, members of the board. Jason Bailey with the Big Bend Water District with a report for this month. Total diversions from the river were 292 acre feet. Year to date, that's 1,457 acre feet. So there is a slight increase from this time last year, which is fine, which is noted. As far as system progress, the staff is working on some intake cleaning at this point. Development inquiries, no new developments since the last one, which was the Commonwealth Company development in April 2024. Financial update through the fiscal year end of May 31st. The Big Bend Water District had an operating surplus of $168,142. So after capital expenditures and debt service payments, the accumulated debt balance decreased $109,161 from the fiscal year end. The fiscal year does end on June 30th, or did end on June 30th, so we'll report that next month. I just wanted to give a brief update on the Water Resources Development Act funding. That's the WRDA funding that we're working with Congresswoman Susie Lee on. That recently passed out of the committee for water infrastructure here in Laughlin, so that is a good thing. And then now it goes before the House and then the Senate. So it still has a way to go, but this is the first positive initial baby steps for that. And just lastly, I wanted to introduce Jermaine Smith here. He is the new Big Bend Water District Operations Superintendent. He started in May, and he's happy to be here. So I'll let him introduce himself quickly.
Good afternoon. Jermaine Smith. Like Mr. Bailey said, I just started about 2 months ago. I'm happy to be here. This is my second go around. I actually was here 20 years ago, so sorry. It's good to revisit. Still hot though. But no, hopefully I will go to the level of keep the water system as great as it's been and make it a lot better. So that's pretty much what we're doing right now. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back to Laughlin.
Thank you. That's my update.
Any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair. First off, Jason, I wanted to thank you. I know on the development inquiries, you had a few listed here. I know I personally gave you 2 of them for my properties there in Laughlin Estates. So I wanted to appreciate, just draw attention that that went really quickly for development, and I do appreciate that. One other thing that I was going to ask if you were aware of, and probably you are, the USDA came out with some recent money, which is part of the Infrastructure Act, and a lot of that was for water infrastructure in rural areas. Are you aware of those grants and programs?
As of when you say recent, when
It came
how
out in
recent?
May, the bulletin and the update. specific designator for rural properties for infrastructure for water development delivery to rural areas.
Okay.
And that's through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Is Eli here?
Well, Elias is here, I believe, so we'll get with Elias on some of that. I'm sure our staff is aware of some of that. I know there was some, I can't remember if it was through USDA or not, but there was some funding granted to, I believe, one of the Native American communities in Nevada for some water infrastructure. But that may have been prior to.
Yeah,
to
and
May.
this was relatively large. This was in the hundreds of millions for rural development. So if you would just we
Absolutely.
have
We'll go with
USDA
Elias,
here
yep.
with us today, yeah, so that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Will Smith is not with us today from the Water Reclamation District, so we will move on to number 7, a report from Mike Jackson with the Executive Director of the Southern Nevada Transit Coalition. He is not here. Kelly Lure was not able to join us today from UNR, but there is information in the back of the room. It's for the Summer 4-H Meet the Ranger and Volunteer Opportunity at the Laughlin Library, Saturday, July 13th, from 10:30 to 1 p.m. Okay, Parks and Rec is not with us today. There is also a report for Parks and Rec in the back of the room. They have 17 programs with 1,040 participants. Spirit Mountain Activity Center, July and August senior field trips. They're going to the Bellagio Conservatory, Costco, Super Summer Theater, School of Rock, Downtown Summerlin Farmers Market, fantastic indoor swap meet. For any information, you can see it in the back of the room. Okay, we will now move on to Carrie Larson with Laughlin Chamber.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Carrie Larson, Laughlin Chamber of Commerce. My report this month, I'm full of energy. Unlike last month, I have recovered from Chef's Food Fest. The Chamber will be helping out in any way that we can for the Bennett Elementary groundbreaking and ribbon cutting on August 9th at 9 a.m. I've spoken to Dawn, and we are going to be making contact very soon. As far as networking and education at the Laughlin Chamber, we still have Toastmasters, so tonight at 4:30, there will be Toastmasters in the Laughlin Chamber boardroom, and it will also be on the 4th Tuesday of the month, which is the 23rd. Those are going well. We're kind of growing a little bit and having a lot of fun with it. On July 26th at 8:30 a.m., we will host Nation's Finest for our business breakfast, and he's going to be speaking on growth through positive relationship building. Breakfast will be served, light breakfast. And then, and I'm sorry, that is presented by Raymond White, who's the site director. Nice man. Our roundtables are relatively new and they're going well. Our next one will be August 5th at noon, presented by Amanda Carling. She's a State Farm agent and one of our members, and she's going to be presenting on home life, health, and small business protection. Lunch is also served at those, so if you want to learn about any of those things, come on down, we'll feed you. If you want to call Michelle, you can book a date for some more of those. I am going to again bring attention to the More to Mead. We've been working with NPS, National Park Service, on that. Again, it's July 24th from 3 to 5 p.m. And this is all about talking about turning our area of Lake Mead into something even bigger than just going out on the water. What other kinds of attractions? Small business owners, please come to this event. If you're interested in starting up any sort of tourism or recreation, just different ideas, come to the event and you can learn all about what is available and brainstorm with the Mead representatives. Our next big event will be the 27th Annual Community Achievement Awards. That will be on November 2nd at 4:30. It is time to submit your applications now. I want to see as many nominees from Laughlin as we can possibly get. There are a ton of categories, and they're all very inspiring. So go on laughlinchamber.com, say, hey, I've got somebody that would be great for this Spirit Award or that kind of award. Nominate them, please. We've gone through our first round of deciding who our judges will be, so we will be reaching out to them very shortly, and that should be very exciting. Our Q2 membership results, we have 18 new members this quarter. 3 of them were from Laughlin. We have a 33% of our membership is from Laughlin. We did a lot of cleaning of the books, so our total number hasn't gone up a lot, but hey, what's a number if they're not actively participating in the chamber? So we got rid of some of those. Our VIPs are dark until September, where they have their meeting, but their next big event will be helping out with Jason Aldean on September 21st, an LTC event. So contact Donna if you'd like to join the Chamber VIP committee, and her email address is there, and applications are at the Chamber. We still have notary services. Hours are listed on the report. Directional signage and the bridge name. We've had a little bit of a breakthrough there. I reached out to Nevada Department of Transportation and let them know, hey, here I am. This is a project I want to keep moving forward with. Asked a few questions, and based upon their reply a couple weeks ago, I said, it sounds to me like we have to submit this to legislation, which we're going to do. So I have reached out to Danielle Gallant about putting together a bill draft request for that. I've also reached out to our local representatives about helping us make sure that we have a well-rounded approach throughout the entire state of Nevada. And we're going to move forward as easily and quickly as possible. Next legislative session is next year, so I'm hoping we can bang it out and get it named. I did reach out to the Laughlin family, and they have agreed that the name will be the Donald J. Laughlin Memorial Bridge. So that's what we will be submitting to the state for our legislative action. In regards to our future presentation later on today, I'm going to remind you again of the response from Crystal Hoyt from BLM regarding the Section 368 Energy Corridor. Her response about possible development restrictions pertaining to the Energy Corridor designation was, quote, facilities or uses proposed within corridors that would impede the intent would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis to ensure future siting could occur. The next opportunity for public comment on that will be October and November. I will note that as I was looking over the flood control, they did move some of that because of the national monument designation. So it gives me pause with that response, and something that you should definitely look into. Thank you very much. That is all I have today. Any questions?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay, we will now receive a report from Jackie Wallen with the Laughlin Tourism Commission.
Good afternoon. Rockets over the river went well. I have a few concerns after the display, but those are being addressed. We did get our money's worth for sure, and we did incur fires along the riverbank, but as you know, our vessels along the river put those out as fast as they could after they let a little bit of the brush burn. It's always nice to clear out a little bit of that. You should know that before we have the fireworks, those bushes and all of the riverbank between the bridge and 7th Street are all cleared to make sure that there are no human dwellings in there. Make sure no one gets hurt. I've had several questions about that, especially on social media, about how do you know no one's living in there. Bullhead City does a really good job at clearing out that brush and making sure that no one's in there and that everyone's safe. So the concerns are pretty much mute at that point. Bullhead City did partner with us this year and provided more road closure information and protection and also ensure that people didn't go out, park into the fallout zone, which is 2,000 feet in diameter between the water and the airport. Everything went off really, really good. Permits were attained very, very well, and everybody was in compliance. We do have Jason Aldean coming on September 21st. As Carrie said, the volunteers will be helping. We're increasing our volunteer help for that due to the shortage of staff still in Laughlin. So we will probably be going from over 21 volunteers, which is more reason for people to sign up for volunteering with the Volunteers in Partnership, because they do get to help scan tickets and they get to help do ushering to the seats and see a free concert at the same time. So it's beneficial to everyone. The WAN fishing, WAN stands for Western Outdoor News. That fishing tournament is the 42nd U.S. Open, and it's on Lake Mojave at Catherine. It's scheduled for October 13th through the 16th, Sunday through Wednesday. Sunday is the expo. 3 weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, are the competition. The Anglers Expo will be at the Edge Pavilion, and it's open to the public. This year, WAN Fishing has partnered with Bass Masters and Bass Pro Shops to get this open more visible to everyone else. And Mr. Jimmy Houston, who is a celebrity from Bass Pro Shops and a pro angler, will be here for the expo and the event to share his skills and some history about angling and fishing tournaments and how they got to this position, including new regulations that have been put in place for those guys who like to put weights in their fish and get in trouble. This is a points-based bass tournament, and it goes along with all the other points events, so it's very important for everyone to stay in compliance. And again, the volunteers help with that, and they have a really good time at this one. More townwide events will be announced pretty soon. We're working really hard at getting some new events in here and to spread the entertainment value for people and to bring some old things back. So I hope to announce some really cool things here pretty soon. If you don't have any more questions, if you don't have any questions, I will leave the podium.
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tanya Brown with the library. She is not able to be with us today. Seeing the high school is not with us today. Okay, announcements of upcoming neighborhood meetings in county or community meetings and events.
So I'll just, if we can bring up my PowerPoint presentation, I just want to show. So this is the flyer for the event. So you'll be seeing a lot of those going around. Just got the time, dates. So just remember Friday, August 9th from 10 to 11:30. And that's going to be following the ribbon cutting at 9 a.m. at the school. So, and then if you want to just go to the next slide. And then these are, once again, are the list of the cooling stations, so just keep those in mind. And also remember the library is an option as well. So those are just my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to planning and zoning, which we don't have any today, which brings us to general business.
Chair, I
Receive
think Jackie might have an announcement.
I'm representing Rotary from Laughlin. Our youth project this year is in collaboration with the schools. We realized when we've been doing backpack buddies and stuffing all the students' bags with lots of things that they need, we realized that those items were going home and not coming back to the school where they need them most. So this year we are making trunks for the educators. And we're putting them in the rooms with the things that they need, the calculators, the rulers, the erasers. For elementary school, it's number 2 pencils. For high school, it's mechanical pencils. There's lots of things that they need, including sanitizer and Kleenex. So the Rotary is working really hard at this project. We've had a lot of donations come in already, but we are accepting donations to get these little trunks ready for each classroom. So the educator will be responsible for handing them out and collecting them at the end of their classroom settings so that everyone can use them. And we're making sure we have sanitary wipes for the desks and for the equipment also. So anyone interested in making a donation to Laughlin Rotary will be put to good use. Thank you.
Okay, no other comments. We're going to go on to general business. Receive a presentation from Clark County Regional Flood Control District regarding the 2024 Master Plan update for Clark County outlying areas. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Stephen Parrish. I'm the General Manager and Chief Engineer of the Clark County Regional Flood Control District. Thank you for putting us on the agenda today. I'm here to present the outlying areas master plan focusing on the Laughlin area. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to give you just a quick background about the Flood Control District. We are a planning and funding agency. We don't own or operate any facilities. Once they're designed and constructed, they're turned over to the public works agencies, in this case Clark County, who are the owner and operator, and they will maintain the facilities. We were created in 1986. We're funded by 0.25% sales tax that was approved by a vote of the people. And our mission really is to protect life and property from the dangers of flooding. And so to that end, we do these master plans to plan projects, and then we do a 10-year construction program to do the financial side of it through another document. Progress to date, we've completed 713 miles of conveyance structures. That'd be channels and linear structures like channels and storm drains. We built 110 detention basins. We have a pretty robust rain gauge network throughout Clark County of 222 rain gauges that tell us in real time how much it's raining and where. There's many of those gauges also have water level gauges on them as well, so we know if water's rising in a detention basin or in a channel, we can get that information in real time, and it's put on our website so anyone can view that, any member of the public. To date, we've spent about $2.5 billion on flood control in Clark County, which is quite a bit of money, but it's local tax dollars that are invested back into Clark County. Next slide, please. So the objective of this master plan, there's a number of objectives. The first is to comply with NRS. We're required by NRS 543 to update our master plans every 5 years. The last master plan for Laughlin was updated in 2019, and so it's due this year, 2024. The purpose of the update is really to bring in new information. We'll check with the public works people. We'll look and review drainage studies that have been done. We'll review land use, the current land use maps and soils maps, and we'll bring all that information in. Also, if a facility's been constructed, we'll then show that as existing on the plan instead of proposed, so we'll update the status of all of the facilities that are on the plan. The first master plan that was done for Laughlin was done in 1986, and as I mentioned, the most recent one was 2019, so we're on that 5-year cycle. 2024, we need to get this master plan approved and adopted. We do one report for all of the 9 outlying areas in Clark County, so we do another report for the Las Vegas Valley, but we do a combined report for all of the 9 outlying areas that you see listed there on the right-hand side of the slide. Next slide, please. So progress to date on this master plan, we started work on it in January of 2024. The data collection is complete, so we did look at all of the land use and soils data in the area and make sure those were all current. We looked at any drainage studies that have been reviewed and approved here locally that would have an impact to facilities on the master plan. We took that information and completed the facility planning. We've also completed the hydrologic models, so that's the rainfall runoff models that we generate to give us a determination on how much water, how much runoff we're dealing with on these facilities. We've completed the cost estimates for all of these facilities that are proposed and existing. That is done using a cost tool that we developed as part of the Las Vegas Valley Master Plan update. As you can imagine, we've got thousands of facilities throughout Clark County, so it's kind of difficult without a tool to calculate costs for all of those facilities. So we developed this cost tool that really just gives us a general kind of a ballpark dollar amount in terms of what these facilities would cost, and then we'll do a more detailed analysis when we go into design. So we're at the point now where the dark arrow is that we're presenting to the town advisory boards and to the city citizens advisory committees of the different outlying areas to present the program and give an update on the progress. Next step will be to prepare a final report, an MPU report that's in progress, and then we'll present that report to our board of directors for adoption in a public hearing, and then it'll also go to the Clark County Board of County Commissioners for a public hearing. Next slide, please. I did want to note that there was a pretty significant storm event here in Laughlin. You probably are all aware of that. In March of 2023, we had a pretty good flood here in Laughlin. It was kind of an odd time of year for a storm like that. Normally, we don't see invective thunderstorms like that until the July, August, September months. But this one happened a little early, which, Mother Nature does that to us every now and again. She doesn't follow my rules very well. But so we had a lot of rainfall, mostly around the Bruce Woodbury Drive area. That water all collected and came down. It crossed over Casino Drive, went through the parking lots of Aquarius and Edgewater and Colorado Bell on its way down to the Colorado River. Several people didn't heed our flash flood safety warnings, and they tried to drive through those flooded areas and got stuck, and some had to be rescued. I think there was another rescue on the Bullhead side of the river as well. It rained over in the Arizona side as well. And so we do have a facility, and we'll talk about it in a minute, that is ongoing, the design is ongoing, that will go a long way to solving this problem in the future. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So over $15 million have been spent on flood control projects in the Laughlin area. We do have 2 projects in design. The first is the Bridge Canyon Wash Sediment Mitigation Facility. That's really it's really the State Route 163 project. So we just built a storm drain a few years ago that's picking up a wash along the south side of the State Route and taking it under Casino Drive into the river. That facility is experiencing a lot of sediment. It's hard to clean. And so we're going to add a sediment structure at the upstream end of that to capture the sediment that's coming down. It's all undeveloped upstream, so there's a lot of erosive velocities and sediment and erosion that's occurring upstream. So we're going to be building a sediment basin. The county actually sent in an agenda item to ask for construction funding for that this week. So it'll be going to our August board to be heard for construction funding. So they're moving forward on it quite well. They'll be going out to bid on that project probably in the next few months. The second project in design is the Thomas Edison Detention Basin. This is the basin that I mentioned will help deal with the issues of the flooding that we saw on that March storm. The design is underway. It's getting started. The scope and fee has been negotiated between the county and the consultant, and they're just in the process of signing the contracts now to get going on that design. That third project, the Laughlin Marina to Desert Marina Drive, is not started design yet, but it is programmed on our 10-year construction program for design to start this fiscal year. The county just hasn't asked for the funds yet. There are no construction projects underway at this current time in Laughlin. There are multiple FEMA special flood hazard areas in Laughlin, as you probably are aware, and you'll see a map of those in just a second. So next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the master plan itself. We can go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of the northern portion of the Laughlin area. I'll talk about different sections on this map in a second, but the kind of blue shaded areas are the special flood hazard areas as mapped by FEMA on the flood insurance rate maps. Any red facilities shown on that map are proposed. Any blue facilities are already existing, just to kind of orient you. If you could hit the next slide. Thank you. So first, and one more. Okay. So the first project is the Bridge Canyon system. That's the longer arrow, sorry. The Bridge Canyon system has a detention basin on the west end. It was originally proposed on the last master plan to be further to the west, up near the mouth of the canyon where the water comes out of the mountains there. But as you can see, that yellow kind of dotted area is the Avi Kwame Monument. And that was dedicated, and the detention basin was proposed within that monument area. And so it's I won't say it's impossible to build in a monument area, but it's very difficult. Typically takes a congressional action. So we did take a look at it and found we could move the basin downstream, so we moved it to the east. That required us to build or to propose some levees on each side of it to kind of act as a catcher's mitt, because the water as it comes out of the canyon will spread out as it goes on the alluvial fan. So we're going to catch that water with levees and bring it into the detention basin. So we were able to get around the dedication of the monument by moving that facility. Another change there is that we, instead of taking the outflow or the water coming out of that basin, on the last plan, it went into the Hyco detention basin, which is to the south of the Bridge Canyon Basin. Now we're going to take it to the east and bring it down into the Thomas Edison Basin, which is the basin to the east there. The Thomas Edison Basin, you can see the inset to the lower right is the outfall for that detention basin. That goes where the pipe is under Casino Drive, where all that flooding occurred in March of 2015. What this basin will do is capture that water as it's coming down off of the mountain, hold it, and reduce the flow coming out. It'll detain that water and reduce the amount coming out into something manageable, and it'll stay underground from that detention basin all the way to the river once we get it built. So again, that project is just starting the design process. The inset to the upper right is the state route project I was mentioning. The blue on the upper right is all existing, so the storm drain has been built all the way down to the river, but that little patch of red in the middle is where the sediment basin is gonna go. We're gonna build a structure there that'll make it easy for Public Works to clean. They'll be able to capture that sediment and get in there. They can clean it out easily at that location and keep the water cleaner as it's moving and flowing down into the river. Next slide, please. This is the Southland area, so it's kind of south of the main part of Laughlin. This structure didn't really change. It was actually the T part of it on the west side was actually a little further to the west. We just shifted it a little closer to Needles Highway. That was done because we understand there's a solar plant going in there, and so we didn't want that facility to conflict with the solar plant. And then we have the outfall that goes down, just kind of overland to the river. The new bridge is there. We're anticipating that there'll be quite a bit of development here. We assume there will be development here in the future, but we don't really know how it's going to develop at this point in time. So keep in mind that this is just a plan. It's not set in stone, and we can modify it. We don't have to wait the 5-year period when we do another update to modify this. We can modify it any time between now and then. Anytime our board meets, we meet once a month, and so you have 12 opportunities every year to change the master plan if you need to. So as development gets ready to occur in this area, if it does occur, or any other area for that matter, we will be happy to work with the developers and put in the facility that works with their developments, but also works for us both hydraulically and cost efficient. Next slide, please. This is a slide that shows the costs of these facilities. So the top table is the existing costs. So these are the facility costs for existing facilities. In 2019, the existing cost was $45 million for the Laughlin area. In 2024, that cost went up to $75.5 million. So it went up quite a bit. A lot of that is due to inflation over the last 5 years. Construction costs have gone up quite a bit, especially for facilities like we build. Costs of concrete, steel, labor, fuel, everything we use to build a facility has gone up. Also, when we modified our cost estimating tool, we made a few changes to try to get the cost to be more in line with what we were seeing on bids coming in, and so that caused an increase in costs as well. In terms of proposed facilities, the Laughlin area in 2019, there were $37 million worth of proposed facilities. In 2024, that's gone up to $99 million. A lot of that has to do with that new outfall that's coming out of the Bridge Canyon facility and going down to the Thomas Edison facility. It's an expensive structure. The facilities at the Laughlin Southland didn't change, but again, with inflation, that inflated the cost. So the total proposed cost for the 2024 master plan is $178 million for Laughlin. Next slide, please. So our request of the Town Advisory Board today is to ask you to approve this adopt this master plan for the town of Laughlin, and we can present your findings to our board and to the Board of County Commissioners, and let them know that we presented to you and that you were agreeable with what we were proposing. And I'm happy to try to answer questions if you have any.
Questions?
I do have some questions on the detention basin for the Thomas Edison.
The Thomas Edison, this one down here.
Yeah. Most of the water that came down the road during that last flood was off Bruce Woodbury.
Yes.
And as I understand it, that's a responsibility for the flood control. Is that going to be incorporated into this? And how is that going to be handled? Is it going to be storm drains put in there or what?
Yes, sir. It'll probably be a combination of things, but we do need to collect, and I'm going to step away from the mic for a second, but you can kind of see this thing coming down to the south. That's intended to go across Bruce Woodbury and pick that flow up. So when we get into final design, we'll probably be tweaking this a little bit, but we're probably going to build some sort of channel along the south side, or south side of Bruce Woodbury, and then take the water underneath the road and into the detention basin would be what I expect to happen. But yes, we are planning on catching all that water coming down.
Yeah, because it comes down that road.
Oh yeah. It's got a lot of velocity and a lot of energy. It carries a lot of rocks and debris with
But
it.
it brings a lot of dirt with
Oh,
it.
yeah, it's a big problem.
And the other area, where they're going to put that solar plant down on the south area,
Uh-huh.
with all those solar panels, it's going to change the flow of water that comes off that. Do they have to do any mitigation as far as how that's controlled?
Well, they'll have to do a drainage study, I think, for Clark County Public Works to look at, and they'll review it and make sure they're not adversely affecting anybody. Our experience with the solar panel fields, generally, they want to leave things the way they are. They just let the water run through their site as it is today, and they just put their panels in and be protected from flooding, and just let the water run around them and keep on going. So I don't know if that's what they're planning on doing on this one, but that's what we've seen in the past.
Okay. So the other question I had was on the FEMA flood hazards. Is there a list of those someplace?
We can give you a map that shows the location. I don't know of a specific list. And generally, when we do a project, part of that will be if we can remove a flood zone because of that project, we'll include that in the scope. So for example, with Thomas Edison, this flood zone downstream of this facility will be removed. Once we get that structure constructed, we'll submit into FEMA and get the maps changed. And we do that with all of our facilities as they get built.
Thank you.
Sure.
Madam Chair? Yes. A few questions of you today. So first off, one of the things that I had requested from our commissioner and had conversation with is having more input on our monthly reports and stuff from flood control. Because in the development of any rural area or incorporated area, flood control goes first. That whole FEMA benchmark has to be made before anything else can come in. So you're the start of any type of development for Laughlin. I've been on this board over 20 years. And so the last update that you had in 2019 and in prior years, we'd seen, I don't know if it was related to the pandemic, but we'd seen much more public presentation, public input. Your report here today says that you started in January of 2024 compiling and getting data. And perhaps I'm not included in the mailing for this, but the public meetings that you had with the stakeholders in Laughlin, I just wasn't aware of those. And again, that's another reason why I'm asking, if nothing else, that your department, issue an update of what's happening in Laughlin to go along with our monthly reports, because we're at the point now where you're asking us to approve something, and I don't rightly know that our stakeholders have been involved in the process. So that's my first caveat. My second is, in I believe if we check the minutes, in August of 2023, your agency met with this board and told us with the establishment of the monument, money had changed. In other words, projects that were going forward then shifted to another use, the Thomas Edison, and you were going to be addressing that. They said that that would be happening within like 6 to 9 months. And obviously, based on your timeline here today, that has changed. So the first portion that I'd like to know is, how can we get more input from your agency or your department for this board? I'm not sure whether or not, if you can explain what meetings with stakeholders have gone on, and then what changed your financial obligation and what you were, your projects, why did that change? And so those are basically 3 questions of you.
Sure. So regarding the first question with stakeholders, normally we don't meet with property owners or things of that nature. We usually work closely with the Public Works Department. And most of the time, the public works agencies, particularly the maintenance people, know where the problems are in terms of flooding in a different location, and obviously we know where flood zones are and the major project problems that need to be addressed. So we coordinate mainly with the Public Works Department, and that was pretty much our outreach. We really don't. We've been trying to meet more with the Town Advisory Board. In fact, I was here. I was the one that presented the last time we were here. That was regarding what was going on in Laughlin, but also dealing with the 10-year construction program and what we were doing in terms of the Thomas Edison and other basins in the area. So that was the outreach. I don't know, it's difficult for us to meet with stakeholders because, a lot of people have their own interests in mind, and many things aren't regional in nature in terms of flood control. And so a lot of times the answer is no, or we can't, you're going to have to solve your own problem. We're not going to provide flood control for every issue that we have everywhere in Clark County, right? So, and maybe I didn't communicate very well, but the situation with the switching of funding for the Bridge Canyon was not because, per se, of the Avi Kwame. That was a consideration. But it was really because we knew that the Thomas Edison, because it's further down in the watershed and it's closer to Casino Drive, that it was going to provide a much more immediate benefit than trying to build all the facilities upstream and then working on that facility downstream. So it was just between us and Clark County Public Works. We met, we talked it out, and decided that prioritizing the Thomas Edison first was better in terms of flood control as opposed to building the upstream projects. I mean, we could build all this stuff upstream of Needles Highway, and that flood you had in March, it wouldn't have affected it at all because that storm was downstream of Needles Highway, the concentration of it, the main concentration point. So that was really the reason that, the Avi Kwame, like I said, was a factor, but it wasn't the deciding factor. It was more what's best for flood control in Laughlin and getting more bang for your buck, basically. So that was the reason for that. So did I answer all your questions, or?
Yes, and then one other question from the standpoint, so like with our land use update, anything that we want to do there has to wait until the next update. So what you're saying is for the flood control, the area that we know as our Southlands, that can be amended or changed. It doesn't have to wait for the 5-year update for an overlay.
That's exactly right. NRS allows us to amend the master plan at any time. And so all that has to be done is a report has to be generated to make sure that it works hydraulically and is cost efficient, that type of thing. And then we present that in a public hearing to our board of directors, and it goes to the BCC. And once that's done,
they amend it.
The plan is amended. And so we can do that at any board meeting. We meet the second Thursday of every month, so we meet every month.
Right.
And,
yeah, I'm aware you meet monthly, but yeah, for a lot of the stakeholders, they haven't gone. And obviously, flood control is not going to solve. Every developer comes at it with a standpoint. They want you to, solve their problems so that they can develop, right? Because that's always the agenda, and I understand that. But like I said, you want a endorsement from this board, and of course, we haven't discussed any of this. I just you know, I'm just not sure that we've had a whole lot of public input. And I understand Dennis Cedarberg's department with Public Works is very active, you know, in the community, but I just don't know that he has an eye toward what's going to be developing, what our possibilities are, and where that's going. So as long as that can be amended, you know, that's what I need to know as well.
It's just a plan at the end of the day. It's not set in stone, and we recognize the fact that, and it happens all the time, all throughout Clark County, where we have developers come in and we have to adjust things and move things around, or sometimes we get rid of facilities, you know. And so we will certainly work with any developer that wants to work with us. We'll work with the county, and we'll figure out what it is whenever they decide what they're going to build and how they're going to build it. We'll work with them to make sure our facilities work with whatever they're doing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. I'm sure that these studies have been done. I haven't seen them. What's the frequency of damaging flooding that occurs in Laughlin?
That's a tough question to answer. We design all of our facilities for the 100-year or the 1% chance storm. You know, you've had multiple storms here, the size of which I'm not really sure of. A lot of times we know how much it rains. The storm in March was a little interesting because we got gauges. I don't know how many we have in Laughlin, at least 4 different rain gauges spread out. And that storm happened right in the middle of all of them. And so it didn't really rain right on the rain gauge. And so we knew it was raining down here, but we had no idea it was raining as much as it did because it was avoiding, you know, our rain gauges, and the radar was not working right for the National Weather Service. Just so happened that day. And so we were a little bit in the blind on that storm, but we do monitor all the rainfall events that we do get data on, and we keep a track of those. We keep the historic record of those.
But the planning is on a 100-year level.
That's correct.
Was an evaluation made of the monetary damage resulting from the 23 flood?
We did get a dollar amount from Clark County Public Works in terms of cleanup. I think it was $59,000.
How much?
$59,000. Is that right? So, got to ask the people that know back in the audience. So,
But nothing from the property owners. They don't
yeah, I
submit
didn't
that.
hear of really any property damage. I mean, I know the water went through the hotels, but I don't think too many structures were impacted by it as bad as it was. It was more vehicles and things like that, and cleanup, mud cleanup. And
The question that revolves in my mind is whether or not this is a prudent expenditure. In 2024, we've got $75.5 million.
well, that's the total cost for 2024. That's not how much we spent. That's how many proposed facilities are on the plan. So that can be built over probably a 20 to 30 year period.
Well, I was looking in the wrong column. Cost of proposed facilities, 2024,
Is $99 million for the Laughlin.
99 million.
Yeah. And you're saying, is that too expensive for the benefit?
Well, the thought that's in my mind is that in terms of prioritizing the disposition of funds available to the county, that there's an excess in this particular area when we consider other causes in the Laughlin Township. Water resources, building reservoirs. We can't get permits down here to build.
Right.
If we can't build, what the hell's going to get flooded? I mean, you know.
Well, keep in mind that, you know, we're a flood control agency and we have our own dedicated funding source. If things aren't going to be built, then we're not going to build the facility, right? We're not going to build a facility that'll never protect anything. And so when the need arises is when we'll start looking at building something. there's already a need on the Thomas Edison system, because that clearly is a problem, as we saw in March, right, of 2023. And, you know, I can almost guarantee that as bad as that flood was, it wasn't a 100-year event. And so we're gonna, you know, the potential is there for a bigger flood than even the one we saw in March to impact that area. And so building this basin, I think, is a reasonable thing to do. And even though it's going to be an expensive structure. The facilities upstream, you know, we'll continue to work on them, but it's gonna be years before those are built, and it'll, you know, and as areas develop around the high school or what have you, there'll be a need to protect those areas, and then we'll, you know, that'll increase the priority of those structures.
Madam Chair. I couldn't agree more. Bruce Woodbury acts like a funnel, and it doesn't take a whole lot of rain to flood that whole road all the way down to the Edgewater Casino. So I couldn't agree more that we need this infrastructure in place to stop that and funnel the water actually out to the river.
I'd like to make another comment. Is if I look at during the monsoon season, we'll get 3 or 4 storms that give us a half an inch of rain in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I did some personal calculations on Bruce Woodbury, and that dumps about 300,000 gallons of water on Casino Drive. And it comes down that road, and from my standpoint, we need gutters and we need a drain system under the road. We can live without the basin if we keep that frickin' water on the road underneath it.
Yeah, without the basin, the facility is very large. We're talking about 4,000 cubic feet per second in a 100-year event. There is a pipe that exists under Casino Drive. It's a 102-inch pipe. That got overwhelmed. It got filled up and was overwhelmed. So what you saw going over the road was what couldn't go through that pipe. So it was a lot of water. Yes. But the expense of building something in all conveyance type of a structure from, you know, even from Bruce Woodbury under Casino Drive into the river it'd be a lot more than the detention basin. The detention basins are very cost effective. So we are going to capture that water, get it into the detention basin and hold it there, and that what allows us to build a smaller pipe coming out. We'll match the size or the flow coming out that's going through that 102-inch pipe that's there now, and just keep it all underground downstream of that basin.
The basin, how does that collect the water that's coming down the road?
Well, we'll put drains in, we'll put collection systems in along there to capture all that water and get it into the basin. So it'll be diverted into the basin. And it'll work better, I think, than just putting drop inlets and things. Yeah. Trust me on that one. If anywhere we need a basin, it's probably right there in Clark County. I mean, really.
Madam Chair. I just have a question. So one of the things that resulted from the March 2023 was the cleanup by the property owners, by the casinos, which left them with huge amounts of sand and sediment and stuff like that. Where typically would they go with that? That is I mean, it's an expense for them to, you know, have it hauled off, but is there process through Public Works or something like that, because it was a huge amount of debris and sediment?
Yeah, and I don't know how to answer that question. I don't know. I don't even know what Public Works, do you know what they do with the?
I think, I remember Public Works spoke with our office, it was let us know they were working with the property owners. I think they did take on a lot more of helping property owners than they normally do in these ones. I think they kind of had like the sand on the outside, and Public Works kind of just picked it up and moved
Yeah, I
it
was
with
wondering
them.
if because I know Public Works has a vehicle for that, and that was one of the things that I was considering, is if our property owners, if they're collecting all of it, can work with Public Works that
And
way.
they did. I know Public Works worked about 3 days straight, and they were working with the casinos and the property owners. I was on calls with them, and they just said it's not normal that they do this, but they just had them collect the sand and debris and then
To a certain point and then haul it off.
And they hauled it off. So it was a good collaboration with our property owners, and that was good on that point. So, which is not normal, but since it was such a big event, they were able to do that because they also had stuff adjacent to Casino Drive. So
Right.
yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I remember in the times going back decades is that our roadways were our flood control. That Bruce Woodbury was, and now it's come back to haunt us. Yeah.
And Chair, so I just want to think, I know Steve is doing a great job and everything. I want to make sure he's, it's very incredible what he's doing, because I know he came after that March storm, and they're kind of doing something that's not normal, where you kind of work downstream before you work upstream. But Steve and Commissioner Naft and his team identified that this is a problem that needs to try to do it this way. So I want to thank him for that, because normally a lot of times we'll say, no, we have to work upstream to downstream, which would put us years out. But Steve and his team have done a really great job of identifying this to really help that big need. And yeah, so I just want to thank him on that for coming after the event and then also following up with it as well. So
I'd like to make the motion that we accept this as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, moving on with our agenda brings us to the comments by the general public. A period devoted to comments by the general public about matters relevant to the board's jurisdiction will be held. No vote may be taken on a matter not listed on the posted agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Please step up to the speaker's podium. Clearly state your name and address and spell your last name for the record. If any member of the board wishes to extend the length of your presentation, this will be done by the chairperson or a majority vote. Do we have any public comments today?
I have a comment about where the Thomas Edison Basin is proposed to go. As a representative of the Laughlin Tourism Commission and townwide events, we spend a lot of money in townwide events. That Laughlin event site or park, whatever you want to call it, is the main source through BLM, BOR, and Clark County Parks and Recreation on where the hot pit for our off-road races are, not just Snore, but for Best in the Desert and other off-road races, whether it is motorcycle or side-by-side or cars, sand cars. That event site is very important to the Laughlin Tourism Commission for some of the planning that we're doing in the future for more events to come in the fall and the spring. I need to understand flood control in that is a collection basin above ground, or is it underground, and is it protected, and can the soil above it be used? I know these things can't be answered or talked about by you, but I don't know if this is, we weren't given an opportunity to ask him any questions, so I don't know if this is the appropriate place to do that.
I think he's right there. I think you can have him. Yeah, I think you can ask him.
if you,
I think it's important to the whole town because those are revenue dollars.
I guess
Those are tax dollars.
with the board, if you want to open it again, because I know we didn't do the public comment section of the public, we can do that, and then you'd have to just do the motion again, if the board is okay with that. Okay, then we'll move back to that item, and then we'll now open, yeah.
So it's not just for the auto races, but also for marathons. We're trying to, in the future, prevent Needles Highway from being closed from some of the events when it comes to marathons, and move them down to the east a little bit, which would require us to use Thomas Edison to get through to the Heritage Park trails, because it's nice now that they can go all the way around on both sides, both states. So that's also not just for that event in general, but for others. And you have to also remember that there is a possibility that we may decide to bring the rodeo back, and that those are rodeo grounds. We know that the expenses, fees, and all that stuff, permits are really, really expensive going there. We may have alternatives, but these are the things we need to consider. It's not just a piece of land, it's used. that corner is very important to our area, especially for townwide events.
Okay, so your general question is,
How can that land still be used if you're putting in a retention basin or a collection basin there?
Yeah, how's that going to disturb the future use of the land? What will
Correct.
it look like? How can we utilize the land? Okay.
Yes. Oh, and will it take our options away?
Okay.
For the record, Stephen Parrish, General Manager of the Regional Flood Control District. So the basin it's not underground. It's more like a hole with an embankment. So there'll be a dam structure typically. There'll be an excavated area upstream that will impound the water or hold the water in that location. These are too big to just put underground and bury. You can't do that because it's too much water. So we can't do that. So we can do, and we've done this in other locations, we call them multi-use facilities, where we have a use within the basin when it's not raining. So we can bench an area within the impoundment and within the hole, essentially, that's raised up a little bit higher than the rest of it. So water will pond around that benched area. Eventually it'll get inundated if enough water comes into the basin, but a lot of times we'll build ball fields or something like that on that 10-year, that bench. We build that high enough so that a 10-year storm will stay away from the benched area and it'll stay dry during a 10-year event, but anything bigger than that, it'll inundate it. And so in terms of driving, if you're gonna drive down in it, we won't allow you to do that, mostly because we worry about you damaging the structure itself by putting vehicles in it. But there are opportunities to have some sort of use. We recognize that these basins only going to be used maybe 5 times a year, and the rest of the time it's going to be dry, right? And so it's a lot of land that would be taken up that's not being utilized. So if we can put a multi-use in it, we certainly can work with y'all to do that. And then we can work with Parks and Rec to maybe put some sort of use in there. Thomas Edison shouldn't be affected at all. You'd mentioned doing the marathon down Thomas Edison. That shouldn't be affected at all. We'll try to work with you as best we can. I mean, we can shift the basin location a little bit if we need to, you know, if we can move it up, or, you know, the further we move it away from Bruce Woodbury, the harder it's going to be to get the water into it. So that's kind of why it's right now proposed just north of Bruce Woodbury, because that's where most of the water comes through. But I mean, we're willing to work with you and help, you know, if there's something we can do to make things better, we'll try to do that.
And depending on the size of the basin, if you're putting it at Bruce Woodbury and SoCal Edison Drive, that is not a bad space. It depends on how far it goes out from that corner, because we use the corner going out. But that one section in the corner, that area is not used for the hot pit or a start line. But I don't think the amount of space that we don't use is enough space to still do our event.
Yeah, I don't know if I can tell you today the aerial extent of the basin until we get into the design of it. But as we do that, we can certainly figure it out and let you know what's going on and try to work with you to.
There's also a consideration for egress and ingress to that property. So I just want everybody to be aware. I'd be remiss if I didn't say, hey, there's things that happen there.
Yeah.
And there's a future plan and a book for a motorsports park there that we've discussed in the past to actually be built.
Yeah.
So just wanted you to know.
The consultant, as I mentioned during the talk, is working. Well, they're about to go under contract with the county, and so you know, we'll work with the consultant, we'll work with Clark County, and then we can pull in whoever wants to be involved in that. And as we work through the initial stages of the design to make sure that it's going to work for everybody and suit our needs, but also try to suit your needs as much as possible.
Yeah, that would be absolute case in point, where a local person would have knowledge of that, where maybe Clark County Public Works would not.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that
if
would be definitely where you would need to draw in a member of this board or the community.
And this was what I was addressing with you, stakeholders' comments.
Yep.
There are things that aren't normally used on a day-to-day basis, but we utilize them.
Correct.
And it's potential for future revenues, tax revenues, and tourism, which is what I'm all about.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, we certainly want to build something you all want.
Yeah,
and
we want you too.
You know, and we want it to be functional, but we also want it to work with whatever plans you have. So if you have plans, or, you know, let us know what those are and the areas you need, and we'll see if we can can work with you or work
Well,
around
we
it.
agree, tourism and flood control are both important, so.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And you're funded by sales tax revenue, which is part of tourism, so, yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
That's where you get paid.
Carrie Larson, Laughlin Chamber of Commerce. The Laughlin Chamber of Commerce would definitely like to be involved with any discussions about detention basins, because I think that our membership is important to the alteration of some of these spaces. As far as detention basin, just for a visual, this would be the same thing, correct me if I'm wrong, as the southernmost part of unnamed wash prior to going underneath Needles Highway. Is that a detention basin-ish?
Similar. It's similar, but this will be quite a bit bigger. It's more going to be like the Hyco, like you see upstream.
Okay.
This basin up here. So, and there was actually a pic. I don't know if we can get the slides back up. There was a picture of that on the cover. It probably won't be as deep as the Hyco. It'll keep going. Keep going. Right there. Stop. Oh.
Back one.
There you go.
Yeah, there.
So you can kind of see that kind of graded area is where the water is stored. In this case, we put a concrete structure that allow the water to overtop should a storm bigger than a 100-year event hit. We're going to have to do that on this one as well. As long as if we have an embankment that's above ground, we have to put a spillway on it. It's just a requirement to make sure there's not a catastrophic failure if there's a bigger flood than a 100-year. So, again, we have options on how we design things as long as they work hydraulically and will suit the purposes. We're willing to work with you, but that's kind of similar to what it would look like.
Okay, so for layman's terms, you're talking about putting a gigantic dam on that side of Thomas Edison and Woodbury?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Gigantic is a tough term, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty big structure. It's 4,000 cubic feet per second. I think it's around 500 acre feet of water will be stored in this thing. So it's a sizable facility because it needs to be to handle all that much water.
And in your estimation, the optimal area for that would be at Bruce Woodbury and Thomas Edison?
That is
That corner would be
in terms of
optimal.
flood control, that's the best area to put it in. I'd much prefer to put it right in the flow path, but obviously we need Bruce Woodbury there, so I can't do that. So we'll put it north of the flow path, and then we'll divert the water into the facility.
Okay. Yeah, and it just depends how far north, because that negates that facility for us.
Personally, as a flood control engineer, and I've been doing this a long time, I love detention basins. They are some of the most dependable structures we can build. There's no gates, there's nothing man-made, nothing, you don't need a human to operate it, it just is out there working. So if it rains in the middle of the night, it's gonna do its job, and no one has to be out there to make sure things are happening. It's gonna do it all on its own. So they're very dependable, they're not very expensive compared to other structures, and they just do a great job for us. So, but they take up a lot of land, admittedly.
Okay.
Any other questions? Call for
Motion
another vote.
again, yeah. so-
Okay, I'd like to call for another motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, do we have any comments from the general public? Okay, seeing none, we will go ahead and,
I have something, if I may. May I?
you may.
I have a concern about the new road to the bridge. I'm getting phone calls, I'm getting people stopping me on the street and saying, why is that speed limit 35 miles an hour?
I'm getting them too.
And I would like to have somebody from Clark County come down and explain that to me and everybody in this town.
Okay, I will reach out to Public Works and see what I can find out and what I can get as a response.
Yeah, I typically
I've
believe it.
had police officers tell me it's not a 35-mile-an-hour road.
I believe it deals with surveying, at least in my days in law enforcement. You know, we enforced basically speed limits on roadways, how they were surveyed, which deals with the width, the easements, the emergency and stuff. So it deals with more than just, you know, the road looks good, but I believe there's regulations that they have for that
And
because
there's a lot to it, like the curvature and being safe and so
I
forth.
understand, there's a lot to it, but
Cool.
somebody needs to explain it to us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You first? All right. Carrie Larson, speaking as a private citizen, you can definitely go a lot faster on that road than 35. Don't ask me how I know. I do have a concern. I went into Public Works and the road design. I could not find a standard plan in Clark County's road design plans that matched what we have out on that road. I have a feeling that there may have been some variances granted that took away the shoulder requirements. And there is a substantial slope there that doesn't appear to be a 4-to-1. It seems a little bit more like a 2-to-1, meaning instead of taking 4 feet to drop 1 foot, it looks like it's going 2 feet to drop 1 foot. So we have some steep shoulder. There's no emergency turnaround space in it. And so when Public Works comes out, would love to see how and why they designed those shoulders as steep as they did, since we have now seen that it is not sitting in a flood zone. That's what I would like to hear.
Christopher Crawford, 2248 Dillon's Cove. I concur. I do agree with you, Fred, that I feel that it should be a little bit faster, but in the same breath, I don't, because I had somebody pass me and 2 other cars. They must have been doing 60 because we were doing about 35, 40, and they passed us and almost caused an accident. And then I'm thinking, if there's an accident there, that whole road is shut down both ways. You're not going, because there's nowhere to pull over or pull someone over. In fact, I saw a car. I've driven that road, must have been 20 times since it opened. I love it, to be honest, so I'm not complaining. But in the same breath, I saw a car parked on the little side where people are supposed to walk and ride bikes, where you're not supposed to have a motorized vehicle, but they were stuck there. So they somehow, some way, they got the vehicle over there, and they got the hood up and everything, and definitely have Public Works. I don't know if there's anything they can do about it, but it just seems like it could be a potential issue if there's one little accident or someone with a flat tire, and it's going to be a mess. So that's what I have.
Don't mean to be redundant, but Janice Metzger, Metzger, 4040 Marina Lagoon Drive. I traveled that same road for the first time a couple days ago and wondered why in the heck there's nowhere to pull off if you have an issue. It's dangerous. And I can tell you, they're probably going to say that's why it's 35 miles an hour, because if somebody's broken down, you have enough time to see them. But road was so expensive. And to not have, even on one side of the road, a small area for that length it doesn't make any sense to me. It really doesn't. So we definitely need to get that addressed. Thank you. Any other comments?
Finished.
I just want to remind everyone, the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, July 24th from 3 to 5. And I'd like to call for an adjournment.
so moved.
Second.
Adjournment and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We are adjourned. I want to thank everyone for coming out today.